Hello, Branton here. How good do things get as soon as we clear the original toxicity of the feeling beliefs in the collective unconscious that continue to govern our lives? I want to share with you here some of what the world looks like as soon as we are no longer compulsively controlled by memories of events that took place 3,500 years ago. Everything I'm about to describe is already here. In cases like zero-point energy devices, the knowledge of how to tap this unlimited power has been available for over 130 years. As soon as we take 100% responsibility for our lives and do the work of clearing the feeling beliefs such as guilt, judgment and shame from the collective unconscious, we are then able to receive the bounty that is already ours. So here we go. Let's start with a basic like water. Water, when you can get it, is contaminated with toxins such as synthetic estrogen, chlorine, and if you're very unlikely, the neurotoxin fluoride. Yet in 2013, Seattle scientist Gerald Pollack published the fourth phase of water. In the book, Pollack describes experiments his team and he undertook to discover that water has a gel-like phase in addition to the three commonly known states of liquid, solid and gas. This fourth phase of water has some remarkable characteristics. To begin with, it forms spontaneously next to any water-loving surface like the glass you drink from. Second, it forms by excluding every other molecule. Chlorine, dirt, salt are all pushed away from the surface of the glass. This creates what Pollack describes as an exclusion zone where only water in its fourth state resides. Hence the name easy water, that is, water from the exclusion zone. Easy water thus gives us a way of having pure water without the needs of filters of any kind. It enables pure water to be harvested from the oceans or any source that is currently contaminated. Nature does it all for us. An effective prototype has already been developed. Now, along with pure water, Pollack also discovered that water acts like a battery. The easy water is negatively charged, while the remaining water, what Pollack calls bulk water, is positively charged. Pollack has demonstrated that this energy can be utilized as a natural and virtually free energy source as the charge in the water is replenished by sunlight. What does the world begin to look like as soon as there is a natural, limitless, freely available, non-polluting source of energy? To begin with, it's the end of power lines. Centralized power generation is no longer required. Paying for power is no longer required. The polluting effects of oil, coal and gas are no longer required. In fact, Pollack is just one of a long line of men who have been able to find ways to tap freely available energy. On the 25th of October 2022, Dr. Steven Greer gave a lecture in Santa Monica where he showcased successive zero-point or over-unity energy devices able to draw unlimited clean energy from the Earth's electromagnetic field. The earliest device Greer mentions is the Stubblefield battery. This battery was demonstrated to Nikola Tesla amongst others. It consists of iron rods sunk into the Earth that pick up the Earth's flux field. The energy from the battery drove the Stubblefield farm. In other words, for at least 130 years we have had the knowledge of how to harvest clean unlimited energy. More details are given in Greer's latest film, The Lost Century. With a power source that can fit into a shoebox, it is you that is empowered. It can run your refrigerator. It can run your car. By harvesting the dew from the atmosphere, you can grow food in the deserts. None of this is fiction. The knowledge has been rediscovered over and over again for 130 years. The Holcomb energy system is a current example. Already you can see how this changes the top-down control we currently experience. With its rationale gone, centralized control begins to disappear. We no longer need the oil industry, power utilities, coal mines, or oil tankers. Like pre-industrial cottage industries, a huge swathe of the industrial world simply ceases to have a market. Let's move on. Along for no need for power lines, we also have no need for roads. In the same Santa Monica lecture, Greer says men first made a tour of the solar system in a man-made flying saucer back in 1954. By reverse engineering crashed extraterrestrial craft, we have known how to master gravity for 80 years. When I think of this, it makes me laugh as I see men and women driving their new Tesla or Hilux. We continue to have so little conception of what already is available to us. What would the Earth look like as nature reclaims highways, airports and parking lots? How would your life change if you could go to dinner in Mongolia? Speaking of food, have you heard of Electro culture? In the 1920s, a Frenchman, Justin Christofle, invented a system of harvesting the electrical charge of the atmosphere to increase crops up to 200% without fertilizer of any kind. Not only do crops grow abundantly without fertilizer, electroculture also helps prevent disease, reduce the need for water, makes plants more frost resistant and shortens the time to maturity. Not only is electroculture effective, it is also ridiculously simple. In order to make a start, all you need to receive these outstanding benefits is to wind a copper wire around a stick. One end of the copper goes into the ground next to your plants. The earth carries negative charge. The other end of the wire sticks up in the air to act as an antenna, receiving the positive charge from the atmosphere. You now have a continuous weak current feeding your crop. Matt Rouske is the man currently leading the electroculture revival. With electroculture, the myth that farmers require huge amounts of chemical fertilizers to be profitable is gone. The myth that we need to pollute the food we eat with poisons such as herbicides, fungicides and pesticides is gone. Electroculture is so simple, the myth that we are dependent on the centralized supply chain of supermarket for our food disappears. Suddenly, we find our need for another huge swathe of centralized industries we believe we depend upon for our survival has become a relic. I hope you're getting the idea. All of this is available now. As soon as the original toxicity from the collective unconscious is removed, this is the world we can finally receive. What strikes me most about this world is that it's all so simple. We don't need AI or a new war on poverty or 15-minute cities. It is available as soon as we are open to allowing it in. We are open as soon as the compulsions from the collective unconscious no longer dominate our lives. This utter simplicity of the world that is already here can also be appreciated as we look at our health. For example, 1 in 4 Americans is now diabetic. But as Dr. Gabriel Cousens points out, diabetes is not just caused by too much sugar. Diabetes is one of a growing number of diseases that are now at pandemic proportions due to a vast range of toxins in our environment. These include vaccines, antibiotics, agrochemicals, synthetic estrogen, car exhaust, and electromagnetic toxicity from cell phones and smart meters. In her book, Staying Alive in Toxic Times, Dr. Jenny Goodman gives a selective list of other conditions at pandemic levels. Each is a sign of the breakdown of the human body under the current toxic overload. The list includes acne, addictions, ADHD, allergies, anxiety, arthritis, asthma, autism and ASD, autoimmune diseases, cancer, chronic fatigue syndrome and ME, dementia, depression, diabetes, eczema, endometriosis, fertility problems, fibroids, hay fever, heart disease, hyperactivity, inflammatory bowel syndrome, lupus, motor neuron disease, multiple sclerosis, obesity, Parkinson's disease, period problems and PMS, polycystic ovaries, stroke, thyroid problems. Is the solution to this physical breakdown more funding for healthcare? Are more drugs from Big Pharma the cure? In 1939, George Lakhovsky published The Secret Life. Like Nikola Tesla, in the book, Lakhovsky outlines his theory that the universe is composed of vibration. More importantly, a cell can be considered as a battery that oscillates at a natural frequency. When frequencies are introduced in the form of man-made items such as synthetic additives in food or 5G radiation, this disrupts the natural frequencies of the cell. Disease is the result. Lakhovsky's answer was to boost the natural harmonic frequencies of the cell so they could overcome the discordant frequencies from toxins. For this purpose he built what has become known as the Lakhovsky multi-wave oscillator. Through a number of tests on plants and then clinical trials in Paris and New York hospitals, Lakhovsky demonstrated the effectiveness of their approach. In other words, 5G, prescription drugs and food additives are toxic because they resonate at a frequency discordant to the frequencies used by nature. This may help explain why the contribution of chemotherapy to 5-year survival in adults is just 2.1% in the United States. Lakhovsky's solution is again simple and elegant. Once we understand the universe in terms of frequency and that nature has its own system of harmonics, then the chronic degeneration we are currently experiencing fades. The solution is to increase the harmonic frequencies of nature to the cells of the body so that they can overcome the discordant frequencies that have been introduced from living in a toxic world. I was able to validate Lakhovsky's approach when I recently developed type 1 diabetes. As you're probably aware, type 1 diabetes is supposed to be incurable. The body is literally starving itself as cells are unable to absorb blood sugar. Within 3 weeks of using the multi-wave oscillator for an hour a day, along with herbs and a raw food diet, all the classic signs of diabetes were gone. I no longer had insatiable thirst. I no longer had sweet urine. I no longer had the compulsive need to urinate. In other words, the path to regain our health is no longer an expensive high-tech ordeal. Like the 4th phase of water and Electro culture, everything required to heal ourselves and live a good life is already here. All we need to do is to remove the toxicity of the negative feeling beliefs that are at present in control of our lives. As we do so, the compulsion to do harm to ourselves and others disappears. This is what the Troubles Away program is all about, getting us to a point where we can receive what is already waiting for us. Enjoy.